Good morning, everyone. Welcome to a special Business World Insight series on strategies for stronger business growth in 2023. The coronavirus pandemic has brought disruptions that are set to linger for years and years to come. Companies have been forced to rethink and recalibrate, and new lessons are surfacing every day for leaders and business owners alike. These lessons are valuable, especially in a time of uncertainty marked by geopolitical tensions, rising inflation, and a possible global economic recession in 2023. Despite these present headwinds, what strategies can offer the best potential for business growth in the new year? I'm Patricia Mirasol, and I'm your host and moderator for today. For the next 60 minutes or so, let's talk about topics that will highlight the trends, insights, and priorities that are shaping organizational strategies. Joining me today are two of the most sought after business personalities in the Philippines. We will be hearing from each speaker in turn, and then afterwards, we'll be having a freewheeling panel discussion. Before I mention and introduce our speakers, I'd like to remind our audience that we will be taking audience questions in the Q&A later. So please feel free to type in your comments and questions in the comment section because our team will be monitoring them. All right, now without further ado, let's dive into it. Our first speaker is Mr. George T. Barcelon. Mr. George T. Barcelon is the president of the Philippine Chamber of Commerce and Industry, the largest business organization in the country. He represents the private sector in the Industry Development Council and National Competitive Council. He is also one of the three Philippine representatives to the ASEAN Business Advisory Council and the private sector representative to the Legislative Executive Development Advisory Council. Mr. Barcelon is likewise the president of Integrated Computer Systems, a pioneer in computer systems and peripherals, as well as of several realty development companies that provides office space, commercial outlets, and warehouse offices for EcoZone locators and BPOs. Everyone, please join me in welcoming Mr. George T. Barcelon. Mr. Barcelon, you have the screen.
Good morning. Good morning for the very generous introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat. At the onset, allow me to congratulate Business World for organizing today's forum series carrying the theme, very appropriate theme of strategies to stronger business growth in the year 2023. The organization has always been in the forefront of the conversations on the prospect of Philippine economy and the state of Philippine enterprises. As we begin the year, we hear of conflicting assessments on what's in store for our country and businesses in 2023. Of course, the latest data shows that our GDP has a healthy growth of 7.6% in 2022, and this has been validated by Philippine Institute of Development Studies. And so the projected growth by the key economic institutions such as World Bank, Asian Development Bank, and International Monetary Fund more or less follow this trend. This growth rate compares well with other ASEAN neighbors, as in fact we fared better than most of them. On the other hand, we are aware of the uncertainties in the world led by possible recession in North America, US, and also Western Europe, and in part caused by the escalation of the conflict between Russia and Ukraine, which in the past year and a half has greatly affected the prices of commodity on food and fuel. Just a week ago, the Bangko Sentral of the Philippines announced inflation in their country one of the highest, 8.7% in January. And this is a bit of concern because this has been the highest in the last 20 years. The issue at hand, of course, is also complicated by our rising food prices, which everybody is aware of, onion, sugar, water, so on and so forth. The fact that GDP growth rebounded uh, consistently since 2020 shows the resilience and the agility of the Philippine enterprises, especially among the micro, small, and medium enterprises, which they are able to survive and to rebound after almost 2 years of this challenge. MSMEs continue to be the backbone of our country's economy. It comprises of 97% of all enterprises and contributing 50% of our total GDP, 30% of exports, and 85% of total exports. However, MSMEs continue to face significant challenges that hinder their development. They face barriers to accessing finance, reaching market, tapping new technologies, and using innovations in production processes. Philippine MSMEs are still vulnerable to crisis and disaster, aside from all the headwinds that we're facing globally. We in the Chamber of Commerce and Industry, better known as PCCI, as the umbrella organizations of our 110 local chapters, industry associations, which comprise of about 20,000 members. We constantly advocate favorable business climate as we prepare our members for global competition. Among our efforts is to help them access market, promoting the adoption of digital technology, upskilling and reskilling of employees, making innovations and entrepreneurship more inclusive, and most importantly, helping them have access to credit facilities to sustain their financial sustainability. Moving ahead, I think it's very important for all business people to be aware that they should see that the changes happening. We have now AI, which is gradually having traction in the world of commerce, and of course, the added software that makes access to information much faster, such as CSD, PT, SPT. Uh, but the most important critical role is to engage government to provide business environment that will not only make Philippine companies survive, but thrive in a globalized world. So allow me to enumerate some of the key economic measures government has to attend to which are critical to our growth, if not survival of the MSMEs in 2023. Top of mind is managed inflation. We cannot allow the 8.7% inflation rate to increase any further. a combination of monetary tools in addressing supply problems, especially agricultural products. If unattended, this will really be a big threat to our country's economic recovery, not to mention the worsening the plight of the poor sector of our country. Second, continue infrastructure push. We should not lose the momentum, but continue the momentum of the past administration build program. And we are very uh, comfortable and assured hearing from this present administration that they will continue using a different slogan but the same substance and spirit: build better more. So critical projects including the digital highway to widen the internet reach, new power plants, especially the green projects and transport hubs. Aggressive in promoting foreign investments. The past administration has succeeded in passing four laws to attract investments, namely the CREATE Act, the Retail Trade Liberalization Act, Amendment to the Foreign Investment Act, and the last but not the least, Amendment to the Public Service Act laws that liberalize entry of foreign investment to the country. Despite this, the Philippines remain among the most restrictive on foreign investments, according to UNCTAD and OECD Index of Foreign Investments. We are only slightly better than those of our ASEAN neighbors, Cambodia and Laos. What needs to be highlighted is that the centerpiece of our country's economic program really depends on the well-being of the MSMEs. Topping the list here in their access to finance and sustained achievement on the ease of doing business. We at PCCI believe that given this environment and support, Philippine enterprises will be self-propelled and have the courage to explore new markets, develop new products, and compete in the global arena. I look forward to engaging with all of you in discussion of these very important issues that we, together with the government, must face the challenge. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you very much for that, Mr. Barcelon. I agree that the well-being of MSMEs is key to spur economic growth in our country. Our next speaker is Mr. Jose Antonio S. Villar. Mr. Jose Antonio S. Villar is the former head of marketing of the Philippine Stock Exchange Incorporated, where he worked for 13 years. He has almost 40 years of experience in the financial and real estate development industry and has served in the Philippine government. He sits on the board of several companies, including a defense company, as an independent director. He is also one of three founding directors of SAGE, which offers a one-stop shop solution for business owners. Mr. Villar graduated from the University of Pennsylvania's Wharton School, majoring in economics and marketing, as well as the University of Asia and the Pacific's Strategic Business Economics Forum. Please welcome Mr. Jose Antonio S. Villar. Mr. Villar, thank you for joining us.
Maraming salamat, Patricia. Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Barcelon. Again, it was a pleasure to see you again. Um, and also to the audience that's listening to us. Thank you very much for attending this forum. And also to the staff of and personnel of Business World for making all of this possible. Okay, first I'd like to just talk a bit about Sage and what we do. Now, Sage is basically a financial advisory company that was established back in 2017. Although we're pretty young, we've already done a few fundraising activities for enterprises, for companies, and we have also brought some companies public. Among them, a solar company that's currently listed, and we will be bringing another power company public pretty soon, and so hopefully other enterprises and manufacturing concerns as well. Earlier, Mr. Barcelon mentioned about the economy where it's headed. I agree with his analysis, and I think he got that spot on. Uh, let's just talk about where I see or where we see uh, companies that want to go public are going. Our friends in the PSE and the SEC actually have their hands full with all of these applications and their processing these for companies that want to go public in the Philippine Stock Exchange. Also, the PSE has been very active, in explaining what going public is, what companies have to do to prepare for that, and as a partner of the PSE, we've actually been uh, we've been advocating their programs, and we are working closely with them. So companies have to all, companies are starting to realize that there are alternative forms of financing, not relying on the traditional ways of financing, such as getting funds from friends and family, also from banks. So there are other alternative ways such as but again, you have to prepare and ask yourselves if this is really the way to go. Um, what what will what will an investor look at if a company goes public? First and foremost, the importance is transparency. All of them have to start uh, start being a bit more open about their businesses, and also the need to support what we call CSR programs or corporate responsibility programs. Again, the investors really take a hard look at what their CSR is. So Mr. Barcelona also mentioned that there will be more challenges because of the uncertainty in the global space, the conflict in Europe, the uncertainty in the U.S. and the Europe and the Western economies, and also the growing issues we have in our own backyard, the South China Sea issues, Taiwan, and all of that. Right? So we have our companies locally would have to take these things into consideration and um, plan their short-term, medium-term, and long-term strategies in accordance with this. Also, they have to take a look. They have to also take a look at the government policies, understand what this is, the direction of the government, and adopt these into their system or their company plans. So what do we see? What do we see uh, is the future for these companies or for the local companies? Again, adopting would be should be the norm now. So with that, that's just Sage's little advice for them, and yeah, I think we can move on to the next part of our program.
Mhm. Thank you very much, Mr. Villar, for those opening statements of yours. I do agree that in this VUCA world, it's very important to adopt in as agile a manner as possible. All right. Now, may I invite both panelists back on the screen? Hello, Mr. Barcelona and Mr. Villar. This is the panel discussion part of our session, and I'd like to keep the conversation free flowing. So please share your, feel free to share your insights whenever you want to. Okay. All right. My first question is about lessons. What key lessons did organizations learn this 2022? And are these lessons similar to what was learned earlier during the pandemic, or are these totally new ones? Anyone? How about let's start with Mr. Barcelon.
Well, I think we're through this almost 2 years. Uh, we have learned and from our experience within our organization, we share our best practice with our members. Uh, the uh, the work from home before that was uh, put in place because of the quarantine restriction now has become the norm. For some companies, they've realized that if the output of their employees can be done without them being in the office, so they have been able to rearrange, their offices and the work schedule of employees. And in a way, this also reflects what has been happening in other countries. I would like to maybe anecdotally use this in seeing that there seems to be, although we're economy is coming back, but the traffic is not as bad as before. So I take it there are really less car now outside for employees to go to work, and that's one thing. And of course, we have to learn to use the digital space in business, wherein services and products can be really promoted and delivered on this e-platform. So this has given rise to some business on the logistics side, and which is again a job creation instrument in the past 2 years. But talking about the MSMEs, they are really the supply chain, of bigger companies. So it's important that the big companies, whether it be manufacturing, service, and in the utilities, that they're growing and to sustain the growth of the MSMEs. And by the way, moving forward, we're quite hopeful on the growth of our company. And although I did mention some of the challenges, but there are what we call light at the end of the tunnel because we're starting the on-premise schooling, and that would have a impact on our economic growth. People are consuming, going out, even school supplies or whatever. On the other side, that will help boost our economy is that the leisure and travel sectors, or in other words, tourism, is definitely on the upside. We are seeing this happen in the other ASEAN countries, and I'm confident that this will happen to us also. So all the government that has put in place about the accessibility, whether it be digital or mobility, is very important for this sector to grow and help the MSMEs. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Barcelon. On-prem schooling is also great for children's growth and development, I think. Okay, Mr. Villar, would you like to share anything else?
Yeah. Okay. In addition to that, I would like to say, okay, how that 2020 after the pandemic, things have been a game changer. So companies would have to adapt to the acronym I came up with. It's called ORA, ORA, and ORA would be organizations have to follow a stricter contingency plan. Then they have for R, it's redesigning products and adjusting the values and its availability. And also finally A, um, adapting to the shortage of supplies and perfecting their supply chain. Okay? Uh, Now let's just get a little bit of detail on these on Aura. Okay? I would say organizations 2023 follow stricter contingency plan as part of risk management to mitigate potential negative impacts from unforeseen events, and that might disrupt their operations. And also, for art, the redesigning of products to adjust to values and availability. Remember that the supply chain during the pandemic was totally disrupted, and so they would have to adapt to new, new ideas, new systems. I mean, who would ever think of using pre-pandemic? Who would ever think of using Grab to deliver our food, right? So
Mhm.
it's a totally new concept. Again, let's also take a look at what's happening now. Okay, Mm, the conflict in in Western Europe is that brings up a lot of uncertainty. So, and in fact, one of the challenges of one of the companies that I am a director of was supply chain delivery and how to get our products to our customers abroad. So that so we had to adapt. We had to immediately try to seek out alternative routes. And then again, for adapting to the shortage of supplies, yeah, you have to be able to develop your forecasting systems, monitor your supply performance, communicate communicate more with suppliers, being engaged. You have to be engaged, and then implement inventory management system. And again, you have to be able to use other suppliers other than what you've been using. So, like what I said earlier, everything is about adapting.
Mhm. All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Villar. I was going to ask if how one of your companies was able to surpass that challenge of delivering products to customers abroad. But then you mentioned that you need to expand your delivery service network, right? And not just depend on one. All right. Thank you for that. And now, what about your specific companies like Sage Solutions and PCCI? How do these learnings factor into your strategies for this year?
That's a pretty good question, Patricia. So traditionally, we financial what is financial advisory? So basically, it's we do valuations, we do forecasting models for our clients, right? But during the pandemic, we, we had to adapt, and we had to actually. There were some clients who were asking us to help them uh, set up set up companies, not just not you know, set up companies locally, not just uh, not just in Metro Manila, but also outside. So we had to yeah we had to we had to study how to do that because municipality might have a different rule for that, right? And we also had to look at other forms of advice, advisory advisory programs. That so we had to engage some of our lawyer friends to help us understand certain legal implications. Yeah. Again, I never thought that I have to use my legal background again, so which I had to do.
Okay.
So these are the things that, and also, we we also started adopting work from home for our employees. But when it opened up, I guess they were more than happy to come back to the office because again, it's different when there is some kind of social inter or there is some kind of personal interaction amongst them, and we saw that you know uh, being back in the office and also adopting a hybrid type of situation made uh, made them more efficient.
That's one of the silver linings of the pandemic. It made people realize that a hybrid work setup actually works for some companies.
Yes.
Yeah, and another thing I heard from your reply was that flexibility also matters. Flexibility together with adaptability will help move the needle. Okay. All right. And now I have a question based on a finding by the firm McKinsey and Company. According to McKinsey and Company, there are six priorities that are figured prominently in the agendas of CEOs worldwide. And these six priorities are resilience, courage, building new businesses, new and better technologies, net zero, and what is the sixth one? Employee re-engagement. Mr. Barcelon, of these six priorities, which one resonates within your organization?
Well, the six priorities are all important, uh, but I believe the game changer is the connectivity. In our country, that is one aspect that is trading behind a lot of other countries, and it's costly. A lot of areas are underserved, and the services are not as good as we'd like. Uh, Entering, this new millennial generations, is that connectivity is vital in our trade and commerce. So that's something that we have to look into. And the other aspect that may not have been given that attention is that the aspect on the ease of doing business. This is one area that in many fora you have heard that the government officials, especially our president BBM, has stressed the importance of ease of doing business, not only to attract foreign investment, but more importantly to help the local business establishment. And so those are the things that looking forward that this partnership between the private and the public sectors can come to some fruition, wherein the bureaucracy that we face can be greatly reduced.
Okay. Thank you for that, Mr. Barcelon. When you mentioned public and private partnerships, I just remembered what I read yesterday about the government. It has this Philippine Development Plan of 2023 to 2028. And one of the six items there is in the plan is partnerships with the private sector.
That's right.
You
Patricia, may
have
I add
a,
something to that? In the newly uh, released Philippine Development Plan, which is, as you said, 2023 to 2028. Their focus, if you look at the eight silo, three of them are really job related, and it's very important for us. When we as we move on, the our sustainability on the economy is we need to create more jobs. And when I say that, it's that part of it will have to focus on education, skilling, skill training, and the likes. And that's the only way we can really attract, high value chain in the exports and service sectors. Thank you.
thank you very much, Mr. Barcelon, for that insight. And Mr. Villar, would you like to share which of the six mentioned priorities by McKinsey and Company resonates with Sage?
Uh, what I can relate to here would be a company that again I'm affiliated with. we're in the defense stage, and what we are currently one of the programs that we are doing with the government is actually improving their their capabilities and capacities of producing more efficient ammunition by doing transfer of technology. Okay. Again, and aside from that, we have been working very closely with our Philippine military and our with the Philippine National Police in trying in finding uh, better firearms and um, better ammunition for them by listening to what their needs are, exactly what's happening in the field, what what kind of let's say accessories they would really need with these firearms. Okay. So that's one of the ways we've been addressing this in the defense space. On in the agricultural space, again, um, sitting in one of the as board member in one of the agricultural companies here, we have been working with the government, finding out exactly their needs. And one of the problems that we saw is that the lack of storage facilities. Therefore, uh, one of the priorities that company that one of the companies I'm affiliated with is putting up these storage facilities. Not just putting up a roof, with four walls, but also making sure that there's proper refrigeration, proper ways of handling these agri products. Okay. So that's how we are working with the directive of the current administration.
Thank you for that, Mr. Villar. When you mentioned the lack of storage facilities in the agriculture industry, I was reminded of an event that I covered a few weeks ago. And this was an event by farmer groups, and they said that they can't handle RCEP just yet because they don't have the tools needed to deal with this increased competition. They say that Australia and New Zealand are heavyweights when it comes to agriculture, and they have all the latest technologies, whereas Filipino farmers don't even have cold storage facilities. So that's why they're forced to sell at really low prices. Okay, so thank you for mentioning that. And now let's talk about uncertainties apart from, maybe I could go straight to a specific point because, yeah, it's not just Mr. Barcelona. Oh, and Mr. Villar also mentioned the supply chain problems brought about by the pandemic. However, it's not just the supply chain that's been negatively affected by the pandemic and the Ukraine crisis. It's also our energy needs that's giving us a run for the money. For instance, yesterday I was at a recycling facility out of town, and the general manager there said that the increasing prices in electricity is also driving up their costs in production and operations. So I guess my question to both of you is, well, how can businesses prepare for a possible energy crisis just in case it actually happens? Anyone?
Yeah, Patricia, let me chime into that. For the past years, we have had a number of meetings with the stakeholders. Meralco, of course, looked into that. You have ERC, NGPT. Try for them to share with us what's the situation there on the power. And realistically, it's not good. Okay, and it's been the DOE has mentioned that uh, But there may be instances wherein we would encounter more red or yellow alerts. So that really doesn't bode well for the industry. But a lot of companies, the bigger ones, uh, are ready with their standby generators. So that's fine. But again, the establishment, especially on the small and the micro, would be greatly affected. So those are issues that long-term wise that the government has to really sit down and address the issue of. Yes, we can see that there's a lot of new investments coming in, renewable energy, which is a lot of big companies now are getting involved, solar in the wind power generation. But on the average, the cost of electricity is still on the high side using this renewable energy. And this is something that the government must really look at. How can we leverage on a competitive energy cost to boost the various sectors, especially in the manufacturing sectors? Because there are multiplier effect when you have people invest, whether it be local or foreign, putting up factories, and there are multiplier effect for that. So this really has to be seriously looked into. On the side of agriculture, this is an area that is close to our advocacy in BCCI. We have put forward a resolution and presented to the Speaker of the House, Speaker Martin Romualdez, when we first met, is that we have to tweak our agrarian reform law. The limitation of 5 hectares is uh, not suitable for efficient farming. So we are proposing that at least they should increase it for a farm lot of 25, at least 25 hectares, wherein that would give justification as far as putting in the proper irrigation and also the mechanizing of farming. Uh, Going further than that, from what we've learned with other ASEAN countries, that the agriculture sector is open up for foreign investments, wherein big plots of land are allowed over a period of long-term agreement of 25 years, wherein big companies could be jointly with the local businessmen uh, mechanize and automate their farming. And that's the only way to be efficient. As of now, we do hear from our, even within our organizations, they're concerned about the RCEP. Uh, but looking at that point, some of the issues that must be dealt with is the financing. The cost of fertilizers has gone up, and most especially the cost of logistic here in our country is very high. So those are aspects wherein the partnership between the private sector and the government can help out. And we do encourage the young people to go into agriculture. The impression that agriculture is low tech backyard business is not true anymore. Now you have the Internet of Things. You have real time information on the weather, and a lot of things can be automated. So this is we have vast amount of idle land, and we cannot sit on that claiming patrimony when they're not being used, and our hard-earned foreign currency is used to import agri products. Yes, there are certain agri-food related products that we import from New Zealand and Australia, but these are all in the more on the livestock related field. But other than that, we are part of the ASEAN, and among the ASEAN countries, you can import uh, tax free, and this has been going on. And I have voiced out that as long as importation is coming in above board, in other words, they pay whatever duties that's required them to pay, this would help our consumer. I'm not against any of the farmers. We do have to be considerate on their plight, but we must think also that we have more than 100 consumer, and if cost of protected agri sectors is high, uh, this reflects on our inflation, and in a way, if our cost of labor is high, we lost out on being competitive. So all of this taken together, if you think about what we should do, the the issue at hand, as very well shared by my colleague here, co-panelist, is agriculture and the determination of our government to improve on the connectivity. Thank you.
All right, okay. Mr. Villar, would you like to share anything?
Okay. Like what Mr. Barcelon did say, yeah, the biggest one of the biggest problems here is power, electricity. It is costly compared to our to other parts of the world. Uh, and again, there is a huge shortfall, which hopefully there would be the government, both Congress and the Senate, would come out with laws that would be easier for companies to actually set up power plants, allowing competition to or healthy competition amongst not just the big the old players, but new players as well. Okay. Uh, there's also the fear of certain energy or power, electrical energy coming that specifically nuclear. Yeah. There's been new technology advancement in building nuclear plants. Okay, they are not as huge as they used to be. One, two, they're not as expensive as it used to be, and finally, the most important of all is the safety factor that surrounds it. Used to be uranium. Now I forget what type of what other source is, but it is not as dangerous. It's no longer as dangerous as uranium. Another thing that they should actually be encouraging is the use of LNG, liquefied natural gas. In fact, I've been talking to the president of the PSC, and maybe asking him to include um, clean energy as part of their program to entice power companies to go public. Renewable energy companies are actually given bet it's actually easier to list a renewable energy company. The requirements are not as stringent as the traditional power companies. Okay. Now going back to, and again, like what Mr. Barcelona did mention about agri, uh, we are there's so much land in this country, and what's happening here is that because the the sons or children of farmers, they would prefer white collar jobs, uh, because they think it pays better. I think they should reconsider. Farming is actually using current technology. It's going to be different from what their parents are used to do, what their grandparents used to do. In fact, if you look at the United States, who are among the richest people there? It's the farmers. I've seen farmers driving BMWs and having and driving around in Humvees, you know, and they're farmers. And how do they go about this? They use technology, and economies of scale. So these are the things that the young, like what Mr. Barcelona said, that the young people should consider. Take a look. Let's go back and go back to our roots.
Thank you very much for that, Mr. Villar. I'm so glad you mentioned modular nuclear reactors because I think that's the way to go, especially in our archipelago that has thousands and thousands of islands. And I also hope we can get to the point where farmers have access to technology and economies of scale so that they or their kids can afford a Humvee. Okay, okay. Now we have a few questions coming in from the audience. Let's take a look at them. Our first question is this. Either one of you could answer, Paul. The question is, do you think businesses can use AI to boost employee productivity, or will it make certain employees redundant and replace them?
Um, yeah, maybe I can answer that in relation to one of my business, which is IT related. In a sense that we're already using AI. Okay, uh, uh, I know the simple form of AI, Siri. When you talk to it, it answers or whatnot. But in a way, artificial intelligence is already built in many of the platforms that that we encountered. Like in my IT business, uh, we have to troubleshoot some problems with some system. And nowadays, you can just key in, uh, the the what the issue at hand. What is the trouble? And the system in itself would give you some options, what to look for. Okay, what to look for. What are these problems? Okay? And it's you're beginning to see it's very this is taking traction in many aspects, like in the maintenance of car. Unlike before, you need a mechanics that have to check everything. Nowadays, you plug in and it analyzes, the
Right.
condition of the car, and they will tell you what are the possible areas that you should look into. And those are really AI in the work. Okay, so it's manifesting itself in many aspects of which sometimes we're not even aware of. But one should remember that AI comes about through the intervention of human, in developing that AI. It's not because we use a broad brushstroke AI as if they're intelligent by itself. They're not. They still need the human side of things. Okay, some are basically using algorithm that can check things very fast numerically. Okay,
Yeah.
and they will tell you, something is wrong or whatever. Some AI are more what do you call knowledge based. So those again are more sophisticated, like in the cybersecurity. A lot of the cybersecurity package really has that AI aspect because of the complexity in the many variables involved in cybersecurity issue. You need that layer of AI to screen. So it's being used uh, in the financial world. It's also being used. People use models, and those models are basically the backside of it is really some algorithm that has been worked on with AI involved. So a lot of aspects, and this will be coming. This will be happening more and more. We have robotics that's now being introduced in the market, where it's not just a very limited function. Now robots can be trained. Okay, they can follow the movement of human actions, retain it, and do it. And as a matter of fact, they can do it even more precisely. So those are the things that we should look forward to, in many aspects of the service and the manufacturing sectors. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Mr. Barcelon. What I'm hearing is that AI is very useful, and so as not to be rendered obsolete, we have to upskill as individuals. My second, okay, the second question coming in from the audience is this. Having observed the laying off of employees among top tech companies overseas, what do you think should organizations here do now to prevent such occurrences? How do we factor that in into our strategies for this year? So I think this is referring to companies like Zoom, which had to lay off company employees nowadays because they, according to their CEO, they overhired during the pandemic. Mr. Villar, would you like to comment on this?
Like again, no? Like what I've always said is adapting. But uh, yeah, the, companies normally have training programs to keep their employees up to date, and I would encourage the employees to actually take advantage of these training programs, not only for for personal growth, but also it makes them relevant to the company as things change. All of these changes happen so quickly, no? And you never know when you will be able to actually use the skills that you've acquired through your company's training programs. Now, what about those that have actually quote unquote lost their relevance? Okay, again, now I would shift that responsibility from the employee to the employer. Again, let me give you a hard example. Okay, uh, and again, this company that I'm with or I'm affiliated with, we started adopting robots in our production lines 5 years ago. And one of the very first things that the old union members were saying, we will lose our jobs. So it's just a matter of the employer, as or the company, explaining to them that you know you're not losing your jobs. We're actually making it easier for you, and if you would participate in the retraining program, then what should you fear? You're not losing your job. Actually, you're gaining new skills. And this is and when some of them left or resigned because for reasons, or because they were hired by other companies, it was because of these skills that they were able to learn. So actually, yeah, it works. It's a win-win situation for both the employer and the employee.
I'm glad to hear that your former employees became very marketable after their stint in one of your companies. So my takeaway from that is that responsible employers must enable their workforce to leverage the new tools that are already available.
Yes.
Unfortunately, we don't have any more time for audience questions. Now let's proceed to our closing statements. I'd like to invite each of our speakers to share their final words for our audience. How about we start with Mr. Villar and then proceed with Mr. Barcelona? Mr. Villar?
Thank you again. I hope the takeout from this would to the audience would be: don't fear change. Do not fear the unknown. Okay? Just have an open mind and be ready to adapt. You know? Do not, you know, life is a continuous learning process. Therefore, whenever there's an opportunity for you to retrain yourself, learn a new skill, go ahead and do it. Forget the cost. Just go ahead and delve into it. Jump into it. Yeah. And doing that not only makes you marketable, makes you it also adds to your self esteem because you know that you have something, no, that nobody can take away from you, and that is what you've learned, that skill.
That's wonderful, Mr. Villar. Let's all be lifelong learners. And thank you very much for that, Mr. Barcelon.
But I do agree with what Mr. Aguilar just said about uh, we are all work in progress as far as adapting to the reality, and it's important for both private, again, public sector to realize that education is a very key sector that we should look into, not only from the academic side, but from the skill sides. We encourage technical vocational training for us to really keep up with the uh, our human resource. A lot of times we hear about skills mismatch, but the reality is there's no matching at all. We need to match with certain uh, industry that we would like and focus on that. And just in closing, some a word of reflecting on where we are. Our economy is a very well consumer-driven economy. And that being said, is that we rely a lot on our remittances of the OFW, and that's holding up our economy. But moving forward, again, we really need to fall back on the basic of what we have. Uh, and this is one of the advocacy of PCCI when we say reach out. The letter R is to reinvigorate a resource-based sector. Meaning to say, on the energy side, we have to do more oil exploration because we do have them, but there's a lack of exploration compared to the other ASEAN countries. And we have to also focus on our mineral mining. Those are the wealth in our country, and mining also help. The areas wherein they're not suited for agriculture, and the trickle down effect of responsible mining is important. Another resource-based area is that tree plantings, non-agricultural forestry, rubber tree plantation, bamboo, so on and so forth. And the last is, which has been taking traction in the legislative, is the asin, the salt harvesting. And all of those really are upside for our country. And I'm very hopeful that moving ahead, just focusing on those key areas, we should do well for in the coming years. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Barcelona. I do hope that we get to utilize our God-given resources even more as we move forward. And thank you once again to our panelists, Mr. George T. Barcelon and Mr. Jose Antonio Castillar. It was a pleasure speaking with you both. We would like to thank our sponsor too, Integrated Computer Systems Incorporated. A huge thank you as well to our partners, Asia Society Philippines, French Chamber of Commerce and Industry in the Philippines, British Chamber of Commerce in the Philippines, Management Association of the Philippines, People Management Association of the Philippines, Philippine Franchise Association, Philippine Retail Association, and our media partner, the Philippine Star. Expand your business intelligence with BWorldX, a newly launched subscription-based e-commerce website where you can access Business World's library of print and e-paper issues, special reports, magazines, conferences, and webinars like this one from Business World Insights. BWorld X has exclusive content you can only get from the Philippines' most trusted and award-winning business information source. Visit and sign up now at www.bworld-x.com. To everyone who joined today's discussion, thank you. Do join us again in future sessions of Business World Insights. You may follow Business World online to be updated on our next projects. Again, my name is Patricia Mirasol. Maraming salamat. Thank you very much. I'll see you all again in the next session of Business World Insights. Good afternoon.